Hello, everyone. Welcome to Super Subs Podcast. Your host, Harish. And
Co-host Narvin.
all right, thanks everyone for tuning in. So, first, it's been the international break. So, uh, this is where players will return from their club play and they'll be representing their country um, for their at the international level. So, it's Euros, UEFA Nations League, and then World Cup qualifying as well, and then the African World Cup qualifying as well. And then I think those are like the most majority of like the big tournaments internationally happening. So we can talk about some things that happened there and maybe some super subs from the international break as a whole. Narv, if you do you want to go first on who you think was a super sub of the international break?
Yeah, the one super sub I had was um the game for the UEFA Nations League. The Italy versus France game. I had Destiny Udogie as a super sub. He came in and he got an assist to Raspadori, who was also a sub. So that was a nice link up play. So I technically had both of them as a super sub.
Nice. Yeah, it was cool to see Dogi get some minutes at the international level. Um, because I haven't seen him play for the national team. Have you?
I think only on friendlies, which is quite surprising how in the Euros when DeMarco got hurt, um, I was thinking Udogi would have been the direct replacement, but I forget who they replaced DeMarco with when he was injured.
Yeah, and they played Spinazzola for a while as well.
Hmm.
But it's cool to see Dogi get some minutes. He's been great for Tottenham. And before that for Roma too. So
Definitely one of the best left backs in the Premier League, I'd say.
yeah, for sure. Um, my super sub for the international break was Andre Olsen, plays for Club Brugge, but um, he scored the winner for Denmark, or I'm sorry, he assisted two goals for Denmark against Switzerland, and Denmark, um, those two assists ended up being the winning assists against Switzerland. That was a very interesting, like crazy game kind of finished in terms of just players not being disciplined and two Swiss players getting sent off the pitch, Xhaka getting sent off as well with a second yellow. They were really just chasing the game after that first goal was scored. But yeah, he came on with like 10 minutes left and he made two crucial passes, but he had some fresh legs and he looked really good. I think we also have to give a shout out to Ronaldo for scoring his 900th goal against Croatia. So, first player in history to do that.
Yeah, that's insane numbers. Just like thinking about it, just that amount of goals is just quite overwhelming. And it's crazy nice to see like how emotional he still gets like with every goal. You can just tell what every goal means to him like even now.
Yeah, I think it might just be a case that he's getting older as well, and he probably recognizes his time is coming to an end, definitely at the international level. Uh, so that's probably why he is also getting like he's always been an emotional player, but like now it's added on knowing that his like career is coming to an end at least the international level.
Yeah, which is kind of sad to see. We saw a little bit in the Euros when he missed that penalty, how
Hmm.
emotional he got.
Yeah. Do you think he'll play in the next World Cup?
I think so, but I think they might shy away from him being like the starter for every game. Might come
Hmm.
on off the bench, which is I guess would be pretty smart in a way. Like seeing us Ronaldo come off the bench would be quite terrifying as a defender.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened against Scotland too, where he came on the second half, I think like 10, 15 minutes into the second half, and he was kind of there adding that energy in terms of that leadership, and he always has that um he's able to kind of get his players to rally behind him, and he definitely added that. Um and so he could have honestly been one of our super subs, I think, because he did score ultimately the winner against Scotland. But yeah, exactly to your point. I mean, dangerous player to come off the bench, one of the best ever.
Yeah.
Um, Scotland looked pretty good in both their Nations League game.
Scott McTominay,
Yeah, your
he's
boy
a man.
McTominay. Yeah, it's crazy to think, that the amount of goals he can get as a midfielder, and his finishing is so nice.
Yeah, he's got a finish of a striker. The way he strikes the ball. I think at times United didn't really utilize him to his full strength. I think we misprofiled him a bit as a defensive mid for a while, which really wasn't his game. He's definitely that box to box guy.
Yeah. And before I don't want to harp too much on what happened during the international break, but it was a big chunk of time. There were many games going on, and someone I wanted to give a shout out was Fratesi from Italy. He started both games for them, and he might get in the rotation at Inter. Probably not like a certified starter, but I thought he looked really good for Italy. They had some key wins, one being over France. He also scored in both games, so I think he deserves kind of a shout out for a good uh, few performances.
Another Italian player that I wanted to give a shout out to as well was Sandro Tonali. I think being out so long with the betting issues, we saw Ivan Toney come in after his sideline spell because of gambling, and he looked quite rusty. But Tonali, especially against that um, France game, he looked really good. He set up that wonderful assist on that goal by DeMarco. So it's really nice to see him back on the field.
Do you think that was the goal of kind of this break, international break?
I think it might be goal of the season, international and
Oh
club.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely up there. Incredible finish. And then I think down in South America there were, some World Cup qualifying games as well. And uh surprisingly Colombia, they had such a strong outing uh previously before the season started with Copa America, and they kind of struggled. I mean, I think they tied Peru, and Luis Diaz kind of had to save them at the last minute.
Yeah, I think yeah, to your point, they had such a good run during the even before the Copa America, they were on like a over 20 game win streak, and then eventually lost to Argentina. I don't know. They ended up getting their revenge on Argentina last night, beating them. Um, and I saw Brazil got upsetted against Paraguay.
Yeah, I thought that was a yeah, to your point with, Argentina, um what did you think about kind of Lisandro Martinez taking the number 10 shirt?
Um, I think it's well deserved. I feel like I think we talked about in one of the episodes, but he's always that guy that kind of performs for Argentina, but doesn't get as much as the praise as he kind of deserves.
Yeah, I completely agree. Because I was just seeing and hearing a lot of backlash he was receiving, saying like, that's Messi's number, like how can he kind of touch that? But
It's kind of hard to retire a number 10 jersey too.
yeah, because like, you know, who's to say, we shouldn't have retired Maradona's number or something,
Yeah, exactly.
Um, and we're gonna see generational talent come through, and eventually every single number is gonna be retired. So what happens after that?
I think the only player that could get his jersey retired would be like Trent, because I don't know anyone who would take 66.
66. Yeah, I think also to our point, like when we were talking about Ronaldo, his career coming to an end, Messi's kind of in the same boat. So I'm hoping, I think he has a few years left as well. He, I think he's definitely going to be playing in the next World Cup, I could see, and he'll probably start unlike Ronaldo, which is on the border. Like there may be some games where he may, but um,
I,
it's kind of sad to see both their times coming to an end.
yeah, I think just the way that Messi plays his game, it just allows him to play a bit more than Ronaldo. Um, because Ronaldo kind of has to rely on his physicalities, whereas Messi, he's kind of like has the geniusness. So as long as he has the brains,
Hmm. Yeah, so do you think Colombia just I think their World Cup qualifying has been a little disappointing. Yeah, they did get that revenge over Argentina, but do you think they're kind of the next threat to come outside of Europe in terms of like the World Cup stage?
no, I think these qualifiers were kind of just a one off for them. Um, but I think the next South American team that's kind of on the rise would be Uruguay. Would have to be my
Mm.
guess.
Yeah, I think Uruguay's got a very young team and with a lot of talent throughout kind of the top to bottom. Um, so, and it's nice to see Ugarte kind of getting that starting spot for Uruguay, and um, it it will be interesting to see, how quickly he can fit in with United once he gets back to Europe, because you can clearly see he's match fit.
Mm.
Now it's just a matter of, if he's ready to play for United.
I sure hope so. We need him definitely ASAP.
But yeah, so I think, that's been the international break kind of recap. But speaking on Messi and Ronaldo, the Ballon d'Or shortlist came out recently, and first time in I think 21 years or so has it been where Ronaldo or Messi hasn't made the list. So it's really sad to think that that era has come to an end now.
And I hate the Holland and Mbappe using them as like the next ones as like the battle for Messi and Ronaldo. But
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if I were to pick a winner for Ballon d'Or, neither Holland or Mbappe would win it for me. So it's funny you say that.
would it be Vinny?
For me, it would be Vinny. I
Yeah,
think he deserves it. Just I mean, everyone saw what he did throughout the Champions League, but also looking back at Copa America, like he looked incredible and he was scoring some key goals. And I don't know, I feel like Brazil, they dominated Uruguay and that game went to penalties and but I think if Vinny played that game, he was suspended for that game, but if he had played, I think they would have finished those chances off.
I think so. He can take a game like just take complete control on his own. So
Who would you have winning the Ballon d'Or?
Ballon d'Or. I would also have Vinny, but I wouldn't be surprised. I think the following Ballon d'Or at this rate, I wouldn't be surprised with going to Erling Holland just because this season, the start he's made has been so insane. Um, so at this rate, I feel like he would kind of dominate Europe. It's just unfortunate for him playing in Norway that doesn't do well internationally. And I feel like Ballon d'Or they put an emphasis on international teams. Because I think yeah, Messi won that last Ballon d'Or, but I think Holland kind of deserved it um, based on his performance with City.
But Holland's kind of contribution, like what he does this year doesn't matter, right? Like in terms of this new Premier League season. It's
Cor-
just based on
Yeah.
the past season.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing for him as well is the international, not qualifying for Euros. And I mean, when you're the best player in the world, like you need to qualify.
Exactly.
Um, but who would maybe be your top three if you were to pick?
Um, I would say Vinny one. Um, that's a hard one. I feel like Vinny just undoubted one, and then
Hmm.
number two just probably come to Mbappe.
Say this is our top three. It's not necessarily like who we think is actually going to win, but who would
Uh,
be our top three. Because I think, like the media and stuff, obviously, there's always going to be some biasness and
uh-huh.
the voting is always a little suspect. So, but
Yeah.
who would be your top three if you had to pick? Not necessarily who do you think is going to be top three?
Okay. Yeah. Then Vinny, Vinny Holland, and um, honestly, Ruben Diaz might be a shout. I know it's very hard for defenders to win it, but I
Hmm.
think Ruben Diaz, he's on a very talented Portugal squad and then on a stacked City team, so he might have a shout.
Yeah, I think for me it would be Vinny as well, number one. Number two would be I think it would be Bellingham just because of what he's done already at Real Madrid and scoring some massive goals for them. He scored a couple winners. He had a good campaign in terms of goal scoring too, which was really surprising. And then for England in the Euros, and they ended up losing the finals, but I mean, he was one off the Golden Boot title, and then that one bicycle kick he had to kind of save their run as well. So I would go Bellingham just because of what he accomplished and kind of the big game moments. I would not have Holland just because he didn't qualify internationally and he's got a crazy team behind him. And it, as a best player, you have to show up in the biggest games, and he did not do that either in the league. He was quiet in big games, and then Champions League as well. He was super quiet in big games. Um, and he was in Rudiger's pocket too in the Champions League, which is hilarious.
Yeah, I think just with Holland though, it's just if he keeps breaking records, you just have to um kind of acknowledge it at some point because I think honestly this season he might be breaking his own record that he set 2 years ago. Um, and so that would just be mind-boggling. I feel like that would just in itself give him a Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, I think so. This would just be like my top three, and
Mhm.
again, we've talked about how great of a goal finisher he is,
Yeah,
complete goal scorer, but in terms of player
complete striker.
overall,
Yeah,
yeah, it's not a. I just don't think he is like the best striker. There's others that can do exactly what he does. What he can, they can do more than he does as a striker, but finishing, he's the best. So my third would be, I think, another City player, and it's not Ruben Diaz. It would be Phil Foden. I thought when City needed some goals, he was the guy that came off and provided those goals. You know, City were in some really tight games in the league, and Foden was the one that was able to create magic, especially when De Bruyne was hurt for such a long period as well. Foden was that guy.
I would say at the Euros he had a horrid time though.
Oh, I agree too. I think it was very unlike him. He
Yeah,
he
and
did not
they
look good.
they pretty much catered the team to him, put him at left mid, put him at that. center attacking role and then left wing. Um, and it just didn't seem to work out. I don't know what was going on, but it just did not work out for him at the Euros.
No, it didn't. And I think Mbappe, the reason I probably didn't have him on the list is just because I'll be honest, I mean, I don't really watch League One unless it's a big two big teams. So I don't know if his goals, like how they came about. And, obviously he's a quality player, but in the Champions League games, like the ones that were like the games matter, I thought Dembele was the better player a lot of times.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
especially against Dortmund, where they were, on the ropes. I thought Dembele was the guy that was, if they were to move on, it would be because of him,
hmm
not
He
necessarily
single-handed.
Mbappe.
I think he's Dembele single-handedly eliminated Barcelona in that Champions League run.
Oh, agreed. That leg kind of gave me chills in terms of like, just I guess it wasn't really revenge and not necessarily like Barca did him dirty, but it was just like to kind of
Barca
see him
fans
get,
did him kind of dirty, like just like mocking him and stuff before the game. I was like, oh man.
that's true, yeah. But as a club, I guess Barca as a club didn't necessarily like disrespect him, but
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it was still cool to see like him, that's one of like the badass moments.
Oh yeah, he's definitely elite. I mean, if he could just like work on his finishing, he'd be among the elite.
Yeah, I think dribbling wise, he's kind of untouchable at times, or else you're gonna give up a penalty or something.
I think people just have bad perception like that he's always injured, but I mean, when he's playing, he's always a threat.
And then I think last point I wanted to make with the Ballon d'Or was just, it- well, I'll ask you first. Is there anyone on the list that you thought should have been top 30 that you did not see?
Um, I'd have to go through that list again. I don't know. Looking at the initial list, I think it was quite fair.
Were there any that you were surprised were on the list, maybe, or that you don't think should have been on the list? And there's definitely a couple for me that I was like, whoa, they're on the list.
Hang on, let me check just to make sure. Um,
Yeah, I think Emmy Martinez was on there. I'm surprised
oh, I
you wouldn't bring him up.
I hate Emmy Martinez. Good goalkeeper, but oh man, he's such a troll. I hate him. Um,
I think he's one of those players where if he's on your team, you absolutely love him. If he's not, you absolutely hate him.
all right, there were actually a few that are kind of weird. Mats Hummels. No, I'm sorry. You don't deserve to be on there.
See, there I think I agree. I thought, well, see, Dortmund defensively were good, but
Mhm.
I think if they were to place a Dortmund defender in there, I get why they would do it. I would have put Anton over him. I thought he was like the key player for Dortmund defensively. And I thought Hummels, like, he struggled honestly in the Champions League run. A lot of games he was looking shaky.
I like Schlotterbeck over Hummels, honestly.
Yeah, I would take those two.
Um, yeah, there's a few other that are kind of
Wh-
eye-opening on
Where was
this.
Hummels on the list?
Hummels, two, three, four, five, six. He was ninth.
Ninth. Okay. Well, I guess these are just like the short list, right? So it's not
Yeah,
necessarily ranked. Okay,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. Um, Grimaldo, that was a bit strange.
Yeah, I think they had Warts as well
Yeah,
in there.
Florian Wirtz. Um,
See, the thing I hate about Ballon d'Or sometimes is like the statistics make up such a big part, you know, and it's not even like advanced stats that they look at, so they don't even consider luck at times. But I thought Xhaka was a more integral part than Grimaldo for Bayern Leverkusen.
yeah, he's kind of like the anchor of that squad.
Yeah.
Um, and then Lookman, yeah, he went off on that Europa League final. Um, but I don't know if he's Ballon d'Or worthy. Um,
But I guess like would you rank him in like the top 30 on that list out of all the players? You know,
nah,
like yeah, I probably wouldn't either.
yeah, some of these names are a bit strange.
Yeah. And I mean going to our point again, Ballon d'Or is always a little in terms of selections always a little suspect, but
Mhm. And I know another podcast that we enjoy listening to is Barra Brothers, and they had a topic. They were talking about the Ballon d'Or as well in one of their recent episodes, and they were kind of going over the list from 2004 and 2014 and comparing it to this year's list. And like, I don't know if it's just nostalgia, but like the names that were coming up on the list in those like older Ballon d'Ors were just like, it was like, I feel like, I don't know if the games dropped a bit, but the names on those lists were just like, everyone was insane.
I think nowadays too they rely so heavily again like on just pure stats that you can get and
Mm-hmm.
uh I don't know, maybe the criteria has changed. I'm not sure, but I would agree like the Ballon d'Or like back then was much more stacked with some great players. Um yeah, in mine the I guess I didn't have really any crazy surprises either. Um well, I guess Çalhanoğlu Naglu like I was surprised he was on the list. Um, I
Yeah.
thought he looked decent last year, but like to be top 30 on that list, I was kind of surprised. And even for Turkey, like I get it that you're one of the more experienced players and the key guys, but there were some other players that really outperformed him
Yeah.
in the
Goulet
Euros.
was running the show for Turkey.
Oh, completely. But I think one player that I was super upset at, who wasn't on the list. Um, is Rodrigo. Uh, he's one of my favorite players at Real Madrid. I think he's an absolute baller, and I know we were talking about this maybe last week I think while we were watching the Real Madrid Betis game that uh I was just venting at you that how upsetting it is to see Rodrigo not get the love that Vinny or Mbappe gets because honestly like the Champions League that they've won, he's won single-handedly won them some games.
Yeah, he's been integral.
So for him not to be on that list, especially for the success that Real Madrid's had
Hmm.
because of him, I thought that was a shocker for me. And just for the listeners, when Narv and I were talking during that Madrid game, we also talked about how Real Madrid are marketing kind of Vinny, and rightfully so, Vinny, Mbappe, and Bellingham, as kind of the face, and they're over everything. But and so Rodrigo is kind of the man left out, and Rodrigo, he publicly expressed his frustration, um, and we discussed that if Rodrigo were to join any other team, he would improve them by miles, and a team like Arsenal or United, they would be competing for easily top four.
Yeah.
And Arsenal for the title, I think would be wrapped up for them.
Yeah. Another point I wanted to touch up on the Ballon d'Or was as a former goalkeeper, how do you feel that goalkeepers don't really get the, I guess, even just to be on like a top 30 list, they don't get the recognition? Because I feel like a goalkeeper that should always kind of be on this list for especially the past few years is Allison. I feel like he should always be on there.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's just, some of those types of positions just kind of go unloved, I guess. And again, it's just going back to you're not really on the stat sheet. Um, and as a goalkeeper, I mean, you were a defender for most of your life. Like as a goalkeeper, as a defender, you know that it you're doing, you're not necessarily looking to kind of be that man that's
Mm-hmm.
that everyone kind of celebrates and talks about.
Yeah.
You're okay just being in the background,
That's true.
just
Yeah.
getting your job done. So I don't think they'll necessarily care. And um, but again, for me, like the Ballon d'Or is kind of it's always been really suspect.
Mm.
So
Allison did get on the score sheet though that one year to keep him top four.
yeah, and then they ended up winning the Champions League.
Yeah. Epic.
All right, so now we can move on to kind of the main segment of today's podcast. In spirit of it being the international break, Narvin and I wanted to, do something related to international soccer. So, us being in the US, we thought, why not collectively, the two of us try to create what we think was uh, the all-time best 11 uh, US players. And when creating this list, Narv, let's think, it doesn't necessarily have to be players that have excelled for the US internationally per se, but just players that we think are the best quality players and obviously have represented the US at least once,
Okay. That might
if that
change it
makes
up a little
sense.
bit, but yeah, that works.
Okay. Um, but and I think, we can go through each position, talk about the players, and then we should oh yeah, and we'll probably need to keep a formation in mind. So
Mhm. Four,
I
three,
think
three.
it depends. Yeah, so
Okay.
when I was trying to come up with this list, where did you, I guess, struggle the most? And which positions?
Really the back line.
Yeah, my back line. And I mean, I was trying to think through some center backs, and that's where I struggled the most. And I was thinking,
That
I was
was
like,
very limited options.
yeah, and I was just going through my head, and I was thinking past all the World Cups we've had, and CONCACAF or Gold Cups, and I was thinking like, wow, we really have not had like quality center backs, and it makes sense why like we've really struggled on the international stage.
Yeah, that's totally true.
So I don't know if you want to play, not, like a three in the back maybe, so and we can like stack up a little more on the midfield and up front, or if just if you just want to stick to like maybe a 4-3-3 or 4-4-2.
Um, I can go with three in the back.
You want to go three in the back?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can do that.
And then um
Go like a 3-5-2.
3-5-2. Okay, I like that. Let me just
Definitely
make
the defense was just so limited. So for me, that was the hardest one, like you mentioned.
3-5-2. Okay.
And we can
Yeah,
always
I
play
I,
around.
I
Unlike
like that.
the draft we did last week, this one we can change the formation around. Since we're doing the combines, anyways.
Yeah, I like that. And I think, the five in the midfield, I think maybe the two wide players we can have as kind of like wing backs, kind of that can attack
Perfect.
and also.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So do you want to start with
Goalkeeper.
goalkeepers or
Yeah.
okay? Uh,
Goalkeepers. Honestly, goalkeepers. U.S. produces quite like quality goalkeepers. Um, and for this one, I had three on my list, but I'll let you get the pick since you're the former goalkeeper here. I'll let you have.
well, I think we should like both
You want
collectively
both? Okay.
agree.
Yeah.
And then and I feel like we can just, if we disagree, we can make
Mhm.
arguments and we
Okay.
can convince one another which
Yeah.
one to select. If not, I think if we're stubborn,
Yeah.
I think we should settle it by rock, paper, scissors.
Fair. Okay.
Okay. So for my keepers, to your point, yeah, there were a list of keepers to choose from, and I went with Brad Friedel as my number one. I think that might come to a surprise for a lot of people,
Uh-huh.
expecting probably Tim Howard, but I went with Brad Friedel.
That was my number one choice.
Okay, who was number two for you? Was it Tim Howard?
Yeah, it was Tim Howard.
Okay, good. And then I think we have to shout out Casey Keller as well.
Yeah. He was quality
Um,
too.
yeah, he's a legend. Um,
I think Brad Friedel kind of gets overlooked by a lot of the fan base.
yeah, I agree. And I think like, career level, um, he could have been much better, but I mean, he was really limited. He wasn't able to get a work permit to play in England, which is wild. So like there were teams, Nottingham wanted him. He couldn't play. I mean, he couldn't get a work permit, so he played in I think like the Danish league or something. And then Newcastle and Sunderland wanted him as well to play, but again wasn't able to get a work permit, so he played in Turkey. Um, so I mean, he had the opportunity, to probably make even a bigger name for himself,
Yeah.
but wasn't able to for that reason. And then, um, and then he joined, I think, the MLS and was the goalkeeper of the year. He was on like the best 11, and then
Yeah, I
after
remember
that,
he'd
he
always
went
be on
to
like the All-Star team
yeah,
for
exactly. And then
those
after the
LA.
MLS, he went to, um, well, he struggled at Liverpool, but then he was at Blackburn and made a name for himself there. Um, and I think the highlight of his career at the club level was, when they at Blackburn when they beat Spurs in the League Cup final, which I guess is like the EFL Cup now,
Uh,
but poor Spurs
hmm
can't win a title. But and then he won like the man of the match for that game for that final. And then I think he had like 15 clean sheets and was a team of the player of the team
hmm
that season, selected by his teammates, and then he made it to like their premiership team of the season as well.
Yeah, those are notable achievements. Um, and I know Tim Howard, he's also had a quite a bit of achievement. I think the one memory that sticks out for a lot of fans would be the Belgium game where he had the 15 saves. Um, but I'll say one of my funniest memories for Tim Howard would be the Gold Cup final versus Mexico. That one always just kills me when Dos Santos he like schools the entire back line, chips it for the goal, and then Tim Howard when he spazzes out, he's like he looks like Randy Orton before he hits the RKO.
Oh, I remember that he was like a man like in shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that play clearly. Yeah, I think the Belgium that game in the World Cup was one of the craziest goalkeeper performances in a World Cup.
It is unfortunate with the Wondolowski miss, the
Oh yeah,
sitter.
wow.
So
Wait, so 2014 was that the same year that Ochoa went crazy as well for Mexico?
yeah.
Mm.
I feel like he always goes crazy for Mexico though.
Yeah, that's true at the big stages
Mhm.
internationally.
Yeah, but to your point, I think the reason Brad Friedel gets a bit overlooked is because he spent a lot of his time in MLS, whereas Tim Howard played in the Premier League for Everton for a while. And so I don't know if that kind of sways people in that direction as well. But I would say Brad Friedel should be the number one spot for goalie.
Yeah, I agree. It was interesting. Tim Howard, was a United player for a while, but he just like was disastrous there and
Mm-hmm.
never really got to his chance after Van der Sar eventually came in.
Yeah.
So I think so we're good there. I think both of us are good
Mhm.
with Brad Friedel as our number one keeper. All right. And then I guess next we can go into our defense.
Yeah. Do
All
that.
right. For my first center back choice, and again, this was tough to kind of think through which center backs we've had, but I'll go with Tim Ream at center back.
He
Uh,
flourished late.
he was a late bloomer, and I mean, shout out, he's playing in our hometown Charlotte FC
Mhm.
now, but I mean, what he's done at the career club level is incredible. He's played over 300 games for Fulham at
Mhm.
various levels, and he was able to get Fulham promoted 3 different times, and the 2 times, so he started, you know, down one league, and then he was able to get them promoted. He played over 40 games, and then when he got to the Premier League, I think he played 25 games, 2018, just due to injuries and other things, but they got relegated after that, and then again in the championship level, he played over 40 games, got promoted, and I think with an injury, he only played like 6 or 7 games in the Premier League. So again, they got relegated, and he was able to get them up once more, and he started every game in the championship level. So I mean, as you know, like the championship level, like you need to have like a solid defense or just need to be able to score a ton of goals to get up, and it's a grueling process to kind of be at that top
Yeah, the
part of
amount
the
of games
championship
they
to get.
play is just ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's tough. So for him to do that 3 different times, I thought was impressive. And number of games he's played at a high level, and he's been consistent for Fulham in the Premier League the past few years that they've stayed up.
Okay.
So I had him.
And this combined 11, are we doing you mentioned it post 2000s, correct? That would just make the most sense.
Uh,
Are we doing like all time?
yeah, I think we should do all time, all time.
Okay. For center back, I had the best center back option I had. I completely let Tim Ream slip out of my mind. So that was
Hmm.
a good shout. I had Eddie Pope.
Mm.
He as Big Meeks would say, burst into the scene in the MLS. Uh he made his debut in the MLS 96 and he was on MLS's uh he was an MLS All-Star 97, 98, 99, and 2000, and then he was named the MLS like Young Player of the Year in 97 in his second year. And then he was the captain of our 2002 World Cup team. Um, and that was the team that's made the furthest in the tournament, going to the quarterfinals. And then he also scored like the golden goal in the first ever MLS championship in 97. So he just had a lot of accolades to his name. And then he was part of the 2005 Gold Cup winning squad.
And
Um,
also to mention, like during his um kind of a span of international career, um, I guess like across 9 years, that would be he he was like a penciled in starter as well. It wasn't like kind of a rotation. I do need to mention probably for Tim Ream, this would hurt my argument, but he was kind of rotated out international play, whereas Eddie Pope, he was second on my
Solidified.
list. Yeah, he was
Okay.
a solidified starter.
And then also a local hero from Greensboro.
Yeah, that's a good point. Did he play collegiate soccer in North Carolina or?
Yeah, so this one's a really fun fact. He played for Tar Heels, but he was also the kicker for the football team.
Oh, wow. That is awesome. Do you think he chose the right sport, the right football?
Yeah, definitely.
I agree.
Yeah, those are both good shouts. I'd be happy with either one. Um,
Yeah. Well, I think like, if so we are going three in the back. So I wonder if we could keep both of them.
mhm,
And then if we have another defender in mind, the way I'm envisioning it here, let's go to our left, you know, and sorry for those listeners, we're kind of jumping around, but I think we're gonna have a consensus left wing back pick.
mhm.
Um, and then I think our right back we can kind of make this. I have a guy in mind. I think we'll both have on our list. We
Okay.
don't know necessarily where we want him, but
Uh-huh.
I think we could stick him in the right center back. But
Okay.
you know,
If you don't
where
mind, can you I guess can you write out the formation or keep track
yeah,
of the
I,
okay,
I'm keeping
perfect.
track of it.
All right.
Um, but I think we'll have the same left wing back, which will make this helpful.
Are we?
I
Who
hope
do you,
so because I think this
all right.
play, I have this guy on my list and I didn't even think about anyone else.
Oh, I
So,
had two on this one.
oh, okay. The only name I wrote down because I think he's the best player that we've had at this position is Anthony Robinson.
Yeah, he was number one for me too.
Okay, good.
But
Who,
a very close second,
yeah,
DeMarcus
who is he?
Beasley.
Ooh, that was a wait. So was he a left back? Because I thought he kind of played.
He was a
Uh,
left back wing, also left like winger at times, but then they sometimes would shift him to like right back. But
okay,
yeah,
because I typically remembered him as more of a
right.
right back
Hmm.
and right wing back type player.
Yeah, I had him like on either slot as
Okay,
well.
yeah, I don't remember him on the left side, but yeah, I think Anthony Robinson. This kid is absolutely incredible player. Um, And at first, like he was kind of suspect in the Premier League, and I was on the fence about him
I had
in
my
terms
doubts
of
for
his
him too.
yeah, in terms of his quality, but
He's
you know,
improved a lot
yeah, under Marco Silva the past 2 years, he's looked incredible now.
because we talked about him before he had this glow up, but it was always that his first touch would always be leading him to trouble, and then sometimes his defensive positioning would always leave him to trouble. But
Yeah, and in one-on-one situations, defensively he was always vulnerable, but now I think now he's kind of more comfortable in his role, and he's
yeah,
kind of learned from experience.
hmm and he's a workhorse. He runs up and down that flank
Oh yeah.
constantly. He's a player that I think if Luke Shaw's injury record just continues and Man United fans, we don't know where Malacia has been. Um, but Robinson would be, I think I'd be more than happy with him at United.
Hmm. Yeah, I think at United, he would, with Luke Shaw gone, I think you could try to sell him, make some
Hmm.
money off of that sale. And yeah, I think Anthony Robinson can fit right in with your squad. Um, I think he would add a lot of dynamic flair, especially if he plays with Garnacho. I could see the two of them linking up really nicely on
Yeah.
that side. So yeah, I'm glad we agreed on Anthony. Did you want to shout out anything about Beasley at all, or
I
give
just
him any
remember he
praise?
was a speed demon.
Yeah,
Oh
he
my.
was, and he made quite a bit of appearances in the international level.
Yeah, he made quite a bit.
And I think now that I'm kind of just thinking about him, I don't remember him ever making it big on at the club level.
The only good club like stint he had was at PSV.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I didn't realize he played in Europe.
when Robin got sold to when Robin got went from PSV to Chelsea,
Hmm.
um, Gus Hedrick he used DeMarcus Beasley as like his replacement.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I didn't
and
realize that.
he played pretty good, and then he got a move to City, but that move kind of just failed.
Wow, okay. I thought he just played kind of in the MLS.
Yeah, so after that City, because he kind of bombed it at City,
Hmm.
and so after that was the MLS run.
Got it. Okay. So I think we're good there. So, just to recap real quick, we have Brad Friedel in goal. Both Narv and I agreed. And then Tim Ream in the back, along with Eddie Pope. So those two guys, Tim Ream will probably be our left center back. Eddie Pope, I think, will fit right down the middle.
Mhm.
And then our left wing back will be Anthony
Yeah.
Robinson.
And then
And
before we
then,
move on, a quick shout out to one of the center backs, Carlos Beccanegra. I don't know if you recall him. I feel like he was the past few years. He was like one of the only center backs we kind of had in that back line that was somewhat consistent.
but
But
see, like I remember him at the international stage again. And I remember
uh-huh.
like, okay, for, like our US team, he was decent, but like, I don't remember him at the club level being
Yeah, I
that
don't know
great.
his club
Uh,
level wise. I'm not sure at
yeah, I know
all.
he played in Ballon for a little, and I remember seeing stints of him, but it wasn't anything like Tim Ream at
Yeah.
Fulham. And I think he played in France for a couple years, but yeah, for like the US, I do remember like he was always kind of consistent and played. And he was pretty uh diverse in the way he was able to kind of play in the center
Hmm.
position, center back, but also he could also rotate to that left back position.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, Anthony Robinson we both had as number one, and then we can talk through our right center back. I think this is where we might have to get a little creative, and
This is a player that I don't want to lose out though on the squad.
okay, you go ahead. You go
I
first.
have Steve Cherundolo.
Ooh,
He's part of the '05 Gold Cup um winning team. He was in the 2006 and 2010 World Cup team. He was given the 2002 um as a injury replacement, but then he ended up getting injured, so he didn't really make the squad then. And then in '01 and '02, he career wise for club, he played for Hanover his whole career. And in '01, '02, he helped Hanover get promoted to Bundesliga and then eventually ended up being their captain later in his career. And for the US, he was kind of always consistently reliable for the back line. Um, and then one of the few that you always knew you'd get like a 7 out of 10 performance, shirt tucked in, no nonsense performances.
yeah, I think here it's just gonna be a little tricky. I think that's a great shout,
Mhm.
but I was thinking a player that I don't want to exclude from our squad is a player I know that you're not a huge fan of. Um, I don't know if you want to take a guess at who I'm thinking of.
Is it the technically the Dutchman, Serginho Dest?
Yeah, I'm going with Serginho Dest. I think he's a quality player, and I I'd want him in our all-time 11 squad. I think he's an incredible player. I don't know if the right center back position is the best. I mean, he's played there before. Don't get me wrong, but he's
I feel like he's more the
uh,
attacking, like
yeah, exactly. So I mean, if we had four in the back, I think he's
he.
a lock-in.
Mhm,
But since we have three, I don't know if you could play that right center back role.
mhm.
But I don't want to exclude him from the team. And I like the right wing position. There's other players that I would probably prefer to have.
Okay.
So I don't know if you what your thoughts are about him being on the squad, and maybe we can change our formation to include him.
Um. That's a trick.
Or are you not sold on him being on a top like
I'm not.
all-time 11?
I'm not fully sold on him being all-time 11 just yet.
So even with like the kind of accolades been able to achieve at such a young age, and I mean, if you think about it, he's only 23
Hmm.
and he's already been able to achieve so much success and experience at top levels
Yeah,
for his
he's. Hmm.
club team.
Yeah, that's true. And when I kind of initially went over this, coming up with names, I think I just put more weight into what they've done for the US more than the club level. I think I'd put a little bit more weight on that. Um,
And also, I think the reason, some I did have a ton of older players on my list as well, but I also had most of my list, and especially at the top, were the younger
mhm.
US players, and I think it's just because the newer generation, I think, just has more talent, and I would put them, yeah, they haven't achieved at the international level yet, but I think experience that they've gained in Europe, I mean, biggest leagues in the world
Yeah.
is incredible. And I think just like the skill level has improved. And I think that's just with the foundation that the older guys have been able to put down and growing the popularity of the sport. So like now a lot more younger people in the US are kind of growing with the game.
Okay.
So I don't know if what your list necessarily looks like with Youngtown, but I just kind of wanted to throw that out to listeners that I do think that the younger generation nowadays are much better than what they were back then. I think that goes across um a lot of countries as well, not just necessarily the US.
I also think that these days it's a lot more just like very tactical based. Whereas like before it was like you'd see players that would literally take the game, like as they say, by the scruff of the neck and kind of take control. Whereas you kind of needed the skill. Whereas nowadays, like I feel like nowadays you kind of just have to be a bit smarter. Like as long as you, I don't know. I feel like now with like all these tactics and stats,
Mhm.
it's almost like robotic at times how teams play and set up. Whereas before was, I feel like just like purely skill based. But I'd
Yeah, but
be go ahead.
I think that is a downfall to some players' creativity,
Mm-hmm.
But again, you have players, and I'm just gonna throw a name out there like Odegaard, who he, he's, I guess, like a crazy talent. But if he had played back then, I think like he would be talked about now, like, one of the greats, and like his name would always be arched in there. But like now he's kind of yeah, he's a great player right now and like one of the key players for Arsenal. But like I don't know if he'll ever have that type of impact on the game like some of the older guys
Mm-hmm.
did.
Yeah,
So I think just like the new generation now, like there is just like a lot more talent you're seeing that's, I guess, kind of
they're limited
under,
or
I think it's a little underappreciated nowadays just because it's more common to see that type of talent.
gotcha. Yeah, I see what you're okay.
And I think Dest is one of those guys where you see a lot of guys in that right wing back that can play that are quality. And so he just kind of goes overlooked at times.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad to have them. Um, Especially with Steve Cherundolo. I know throughout his career he kind of had a lot of injuries, a lot of knee injuries that held him back at times. And I know he had to eventually retire because of like his knee injury just wasn't getting any better. Um, so we can go with Dest.
Yeah, I think Dest, he hasn't done it at the international level anywhere near Cherundolo, but I think,
Club level, I think he has,
yeah,
but yeah.
exactly.
Okay, that's fair.
So I think we'll probably have to go four in the back then, and we'll go Tim Ream and Eddie Pope.
Yeah,
Okay. And so do you want to go like maybe a 4-4-2 then?
yeah, that works.
Okay. I think next we can go with a midfielder, maybe central mid.
Okay.
Uh, if you can go ahead and choose yours first on this one.
I got one that's more of a holding central mid. But I got Tyler Adams.
Hmm.
I think he has to be on the squad. Um, it's unfortunate he had this injury as of recent. Because he's such a talent. I think coming out of Leipzig, you could just see the qualities he has. Very tenacious player. Um, just a true leader of the US squad. Without him on the team, you can definitely see like you can definitely feel his presence when he's on the field versus when he's not playing.
Even for Leeds, he looked kind of like the leader of the team so quickly
Yeah.
when he got there. And I think you're completely right when he's on your team, he adds a different aggressive. aggressive level to the team and energy to the team. And he's got that quality too.
Hmm.
I had him on my list as well. So I think he's definitely one that we should keep. Um, I was kind of stuck on my number two though, between two players. I don't know if you had these guys on your list as well, but I had Weston McKennie and then I had Claudio Reyna as well.
Okay, I had Claudio Reyna as one of them. Um, so I guess he's gonna be on the squad.
Uh
Nice.
yeah, I think Weston McKennie, like, you know, he's
He's an interesting uh he's an interesting player. Like he doesn't look like an athlete at all the way he's
no.
built, but
Yeah, I think at Juventus when he did his medical, they said he was overweight, right? And had him on a diet.
yeah. He had Chiellini and Bonucci and all those Italian shook also when he said like he eats pizza with ranch.
Yeah, I think that was I don't think they were shocked about him eating like ranch with pizza or just like his diet necessarily, but more the insult to like the Italian culture of using ranch
Hmm.
with pizza. But yeah, I was stuck with Weston McKennie because he does have the talent, but I'm also thinking like he started his career young at 19. He already had 22 appearances in Bundesliga, and then, you know, after that he started like 25 games for
Hmm.
Schalke. He looked really good, and then at Juventus too, he was a key player for them. Although Juventus, I mean, they did kind of struggle when he was there, but I mean, I think they won the Coppa. Yeah, they won the Coppa Italia with him, and he was the guy that assisted the winning goal. But he's also getting older now, and I mean, I think he's like what 27, and he has an injury history and fitness history. Um, so I don't know if he'll ever like be able to like I think his ceiling is was high, but I think it's coming much lower now.
Yeah, whenever I watch him play, I think ever since that move to Leeds, he's he just hasn't lived to expectations. Um, and I don't know, every time I see him play, it's always like, yeah, he's good, but it's always like I just want a little bit more. Um, like I know he has a talent, but it's just like sometimes he just leaves it a bit too short at times.
Yeah, I agree. I think Claudio Reyna was on my list just because I think internationally he was a key player for the US.
Mhm.
Um, but also what he did at the club level was impressive.
Yeah, Claudio Reyna was one of the picks also that was kind of like I was gonna have on lock when kind of building this team out. And I know in the 2002 World Cup he made like the um what do you call it, like the World Cup tournament team, like um team of the tournament. Um Only American to ever do so.
Yeah, and I think in '06 he was captain for a couple games too.
Hmm.
Was a key player there. And then I think uh, he, I don't know if he had a goal that game or not, but he did create some chances. But I do remember he also l- caused, I think it was against Ghana, where
Then mishap.
yeah,
Yeah.
where he had a mistake. But I think he's been quality. And then just for those listeners, he also played in Europe for some top teams. I mean, he captained for Wolfsburg, which is incredible to captain a team in, a top five league in the world. And then he bounced around, I think, from Rangers to City as well. Um, and I think he played maybe 3 years at City, 2 or 3
Hmm.
years.
Before I think MLS, right? City and
Yeah, and
then
then he ended
okay.
with like the New York Red Bulls.
Yeah.
But
And then
yeah.
also one of his best accomplishments also was the creation of Gio Reyna.
Yeah, I think Gio Reyna's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Gio Reyna. Not sure why he's. I never got the reasoning behind his move from Dortmund to Nottingham, and then not sure where he is right now. Um, but I feel like Gio Reyna is a top player. That could really be playing for any top team in Europe.
Yeah, I think he's back in Dortmund now. But he did get like a terrible injury recently, so I think he's gonna be out for a while. Uh,
I think that's the one sad part is like for being so young, he's already injury prone.
yeah. So, and I think he's only 21, but I mean he's a quality player, but hopefully injuries don't hold him back because I think if he's able to reach his ceiling, unlike McKinney, I think he could be on like the US all-time 11 if he can reach his ceiling.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think in the middle we can go with both Tyler Adams and Claudio
Claudio.
Reyna.
Hmm.
So now we can move on to our two wingers. So we have four in the back with. So we'll just recap here. We have Brad Friedel in goal, Anthony Robinson out wide, Tim Ream with Eddie Pope carrying our center back. Right back we have Dest, and then in the middle our two midfielders are Claudio Reyna and Tyler Adams, where we're gonna have Tyler Adams kind of play more defensive minded, Claudio Reyna, and then so now we have two forwards left up top, and then we'll go with two wingers as well. So I think I'd like to go with maybe talking about our left winger, um,
Hmm.
because I have one in mind, and I think I'd be disappointed if you didn't select this player. Um,
Yeah, I think this one should be a consensus pretty easily.
yeah, so you can go first because I'm nervous now.
Was it Christian Pulisic?
Okay, good. Yeah, I
Yeah.
had him. I don't know if we need to talk about him much, but do you want to highlight anything about him or what stands out for you?
What stands out to me about him is his terrible celebration. That the gritty, he needs to. That's one part he needs to take out of his game. When I first saw him do that celebration, I was bamboozled. I was like, what is he doing? But now, in all seriousness, he's a really good player. Um, I think he took that nickname from Claudio Reyna for this new generation as Captain America. Um, international for the U.S., he always comes up with big goals. And then club level, quite an achievement starting at Dortmund, breaking through there, and then Chelsea getting a Champions League, um, and now at AC Milan. So I think he's one of our more successful players to come out of the US, at both club and international level. And it's crazy because he's not that far behind, in being like the all-time goal scorer for US, despite playing a lot less.
Oh yeah, and he's only 25, so you know he's got many years to go, and he's not slowing down. And I agree. I think he's won a lot of accolades, with Chelsea and Dortmund as well. That can't go unnoticed, and he scored some key goals in the Champions League for us. Um, and just his like style of play too. Like I think he's skill wise one of the best Americans that we've seen. Um, and when he was at Chelsea, I love that, you know, he was really hyped up for sure. People were like, "Oh, he's the next Hazard" and stuff like that, but I don't think he was quite that good. Nowhere near, but
No one can be Hazard level. Yeah, so those comps that I was also always just like
yeah.
shook when people said that.
I think people just, were just excited when they initially heard that talk that an American was coming to Chelsea, one of the largest clubs in the world. But I mean, he was great for us. Like when he was on his game, he had his moments, and he has like an intense style to him too, and he doesn't back down to any defenders. And I mean, even this past Copa America with some defenders that were like clipping at his legs, and he was not backing down. Um, but just his dribbling is insane and his skills. So uh,
And going back to your point really quickly, which is quite a surprise because he doesn't have like that physical presence, but he's never shy from a challenge. He'll always go up against like the toughest opponents and still come away on top.
yeah, and I think when Rafael Leao was hurt for Milan too, he was someone that was able to step in and grab some goals or assists for Milan that were important.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
just get a new celebration, man. That gritty is not it.
he is Captain America, but maybe he should take Superman, take the Cam Newton celebration.
Yeah, that'd be an upgrade.
That doesn't take much practice. All right, so we have Pulisic out left. Um, I don't know if you want to go out right first. I had a little more trouble here. Or if you want to go up top.
Oh, for the right, I thought this would be a bit straightforward. Um, I had Landon Donovan.
Out wide to the right.
Yeah, I'm guessing you had him
Okay.
shifted up top.
I had him at up top. Um,
Got it.
and the reason is because out wide, I was thinking about Timothy Way.
Timothy Weah.
Yeah. Just because like I know at PSG he didn't really have like he had some, I guess, opportunities, but um like now at Juventus he's been getting more appearances, and at Lille he was able to get a lot more appearances. And I don't know, I think at Juventus he's about to have a breakout year. And he's I think like what, 24
Yeah, he's still
maybe.
young.
He's a young player, so
I didn't think he was just quite ready yet to make the combined 11. I think
mhm.
by the time his career is done with, I think he definitely will have shouts to be in it, but I think it was just time's just a little too early right now.
I can see that because he's yeah, I think he's about to have a breakout season this year with
Yeah,
Juventus.
like you mentioned, I
And
think he hasn't hit the breakout just yet, but it's coming at any point.
yeah, and another player I was thinking up top, and this is probably for I had him on my list, and again, it's because I think they're a young player that's about to break out, and they might I think they're on a slightly faster stage than Weah in terms of like they're already kind of like a name that's building a reputation. Was Balogun, played for Arsenal, now Monaco. Um, but I think for the same reason, he was on my list, and I probably think he should get a shout out. But like to your point, to be in on the all-time US
Mhm.
11, I don't think that's fair for him to be on there either.
Yeah, he's definitely a talent too. And you can definitely see it when he plays. Like he has the tools, but I think he just needs just a little bit more time to develop. I think he might have his like moment before Weah, but I don't think he's just hit the heights just yet.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I think
but undoubtedly before by the time Weah and Balogun's careers are done, they're more likely than not they're gonna make the combined 11.
yeah. And I think for our listeners, you've heard it here first that um Weah is should be having a breakout season this year for Juventus. I don't know if you I think Narv is on the same
Yeah, I'm on the
wavelength
same
there.
yeah same
Um
page there.
so keep an eye out for him, an American there. So I don't know why, but like he gives me a vibe where he could definitely go back to PSG and do some damage in
Hmm.
League One.
And same with Balogun. I think Arsenal could have used him. Um,
Oh yeah, now like Those
Looking
are
for a
needed.
striker, I
Hmm.
think Balogun is one that they definitely should have held on to.
Completely agree. So yeah, I think that makes my job a lot easier in terms of selecting a team. I think I'd go with Landon Donovan out wide as well.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if you want to touch on any of his accomplishments or
I think he's one of the known um and more a lot known and appreciated players to play for the US. Club level as well, Galaxy legend, and then had his stint at Everton. And I think the one when you think of Landon Donovan, you think of big goals for the US and none other than that goal versus Algeria
ooh,
2010 World Cup.
I'll
Um,
never forget that game.
I think that was a must-win game too.
Yeah, that was a
Um,
must win to move on.
yeah, so that was just a wild, wild game. Literally the last kick of the game to clinch it to go to knockouts.
Yeah, I think he was just a big time player, scored some important goals and um yeah, I think that goal is probably the most memorable goal as well. In the 2010 World Cup, I think it was late in stoppage time too, like um where they scored that goal.
And it was funny because it was looking like Algeria were about to score, and then Tim Howard gets the save and just quickly dishes it out.
Yeah, because I think if they went they ended up getting 5 points from that because they had drawn other two games. So, if they didn't get that dub, then
Mm.
um, I think they would have been knocked out. Um, so I think he's definitely a right in for our right
Right wing.
winger. Um, and so now we just have left our front two guys.
Okay.
Uh, I think I'll go first here. I had two player. Well, again, Balogun. I think for the reasons that we discussed, should not be on this list. But my, I guess, two remaining players I had were Brian McBride and Clint Dempsey.
Yep, that's exactly who I have left as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think Brian McBride is impressive. I mean, he captained Fulham for multiple seasons in the Premier League, which is impressive. Um, and he stayed within the Premier League throughout his career for Fulham. And he scored a ton of goals for them, for the US as well. Um, and he started in all the World Cups from 98 to, well, I guess not started necessarily, but he played in every World Cup game from 98 to 2006. So I think he's a legendary player.
Sixth highest scorer for the US, and then was MVP of the 2002 Gold Cup.
Yeah, and I think he was a different type of, like he would actually pair nicely with Clint Dempsey because he was that bigger,
Yep.
stronger
Yep.
type of nine player. Dempsey, not really that type of player. It kind of reminds me of Dempsey when he was at his club level, like him and Zamora, like they were two
Exactly.
good forwards, but like two different styles of forwards.
Yeah. Dempsey, he's kind of like that second striker role where he could play in the midfield if you really wanted him to, but also play that second striker role.
Hmm.
Um, and I think Dempsey would be a lock for most people as well. I think he's a American legend. And Brian McBride was definitely one where I didn't want him to miss out from this combined 11. So I'm glad you had him on your list also.
Yeah, so I think that's our 11 all-time US. So um,
Who would you
I
captain out of this team?
captain, I would choose. Oh man, see, it's a tough one because I think quality-wise, Pulisic is the best player on our squad. Um, but in terms of captain, I probably have to go with Claudio Reyna just with the presence he was able to bring to the team at the international level. Um, Either him or Landon Donovan, just because he's like an absolute legend for the
Hmm.
US. Who would you captain?
Yeah, I would say either Reina or Dempsey.
Dempsey?
Micah Richards, you don't know where I'm from, dog.
You don't know where I'm from, dog.
Oh,
Yeah,
also
I
a
think.
really cool fact on Brian McBride was apparently Fulham fans like adored him. And so in Craven Cottage, which is like their stadium for listeners, um, they have a like their dining restaurant they have in the stadium. They renamed it to McBride's.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Um, yeah, so we definitely have to have him on our list. Um, yeah, Craven Cotton Cottage. It was cool that we got to experience a game there. Even though like it was in the championship level, but still like the
Yeah.
atmosphere is incredible. Feels like one of the, Big Ten or SEC schools
Yeah,
football
even
games.
yeah, fans are very passionate, even lower leagues.
And the fact that we had to walk through like neighborhoods to get to the stadium was cool feel.
Hmm. Now, I don't know if you had any thought about this, but who would you have as the manager for this squad?
Ooh. Does uh does Pochettino count as a potential manager that we can choose
He'd be an
from?
easy lock, but let's do excluding Pochettino.
Excluding Pochettino.
Yeah,
Um, I'll tell you now, it's definitely not
Berhalter.
Berhalter.
I'd go
Ch-
Klinsmann.
oh, wait, are we doing just coaches that have coached the US or like US coaches that may have coached outside? Like they, if that makes sense, like a coach maybe a
Oh,
club team or something.
oh, like an American doing a. Oh,
Yeah,
gotcha.
or
Yeah,
either.
we can do either.
Okay. I would probably choose, or what about, would we be allowed to choose? No, we wouldn't. I was gonna say like a foreign manager that's coaching in like the MLS. I would go
Oh,
with Dean Smith. Um, this one's tough. If so, I think outside of Pochettino, it might have to be Jesse March.
yeah, I think so. I think he's a like he didn't do so well for Leeds, but I think when it comes to international solely, like he'd be a really good manager.
I mean, he's turned around Canada. They looked incredible.
Yeah.
So who would you choose? Would you choose Marsh as well, or?
Yeah, I think I would go with Jesse Marsh. I thought he was going to be a honestly, I thought the US would appoint him after getting rid of Bellhalter, but I was happy with Pochettino. That's an insane appointment getting Pochettino for the US.
Yeah, Bellhalter is definitely one of my least favorite coaches that the U.S. have
Yeah, he was
appointed.
very dislikable.
And just like he's had a lot of talent to coach, but
Mhm.
he's been disappointing.
Were there
I,
any other quick shouts of players that didn't make this combined 11? Um,
yeah, I think. Oh, and I'm sorry, I don't think we really talked Clint Dempsey too much. I don't know if you want to, but he also went through a lot of injuries where if he hadn't had those injuries, I think he would be way separated from Landon Donovan in the goal scoring list.
yeah, I think Clint Dempsey, even also what he did at Fulham was I mean, he was considered as one of the top midfielders in the league at during his time. And as you mentioned, like his link up with Zamora, that that was known as like a duo.
hmm
Um, So he had a really good spell at the Premier League.
He really transformed Fulham too because when Zamora was hurt for a period and Dempsey wasn't, they had him trying to play that link up type role and he just wasn't like that. And as the Premier League kind of transformed from just, getting it up to the big guy, he was one of those that transformed into playing behind the defenders and standing at the last line type of forward. Um, but I think a forward that we missed and I would put on our top list actually. Um, she just retired. We need to give her a shout out.
Uh,
Alex Morgan.
no, the US has had a better forward than Morgan. Abby Wambach, the GOAT.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I just need to give Alex Morgan a shout out. Just
Yeah.
I think she was pregnant while playing her last game, but
Also a midfield shout out for the US men's team would be I was also a big fan of Jermaine Jones. And then
oh, I forgot about Jermaine Jones.
he was on my list and I was like, I
Whoa,
wanted him on there, but I just
he was a
couldn't.
dog.
Yeah, he was so good. And then one person also longtime servant, Mr. Clean. um
Bradley.
yeah, Michael Bradley.
Yeah, I had him on my list, but he was like at the bottom of my list.
Yeah. Jermaine Jones was one where I was like, do I want to fight for him? Because I liked watching him a lot.
Yeah, the Bradley father-son duo was odd one. I don't know if that would ever work in other type of relationships,
No.
like that type of relation, but that's interesting. But yeah, just to recap for our listeners, our 11 in goal, we have Brad Friedel, our two center backs, Tim Ream on the left, Eddie Pope on the right. Our left back will be Anthony Robinson, current player. Uh, And then right back is Serginho Dest, also a current player. Uh, Tim Ream is also a current player, plays for Charlotte FC. In the midfield, we have Claudio Reyna. We have Tyler Adams, he's a current player. Christian Pulisic, current player. We have Landon Donovan out wide to the right. And then up top, we have Clint Dempsey and we have Brian McBride.
Yep.
Uh,
It's a good squad.
yeah, so for those listeners, just let us know who you think we're missing.
Freddie Adu.
Freddie Adu, what could have been?
Yeah, he's a
Uh,
mystery.
what could have
Josie
been?
Altidore.
Josie Altidore. He was on my list as well for potential, but I think we have better
Mhm.
attacking uh, players. But yeah, let us know who you think we're missing. I think in a few years, uh, Weah, if he's able to really reach his ceiling, we think this is going to be his breakout year. He might eventually be on this list. Um, so, 5 years time or so, this list may look slightly different. We'll see, but who are we missing right now? What do you think about our list? Let us know. Um, and then before we sign out, Narv, is there any predictions for this weekend for United? Do you think you can secure the dub versus Southampton?
Um, let's just say if we don't win versus Southampton, I'm leaving the podcast. You'll run it solo.
That is I cannot let you say that. Guys, Narvin is completely joking. He has retracted that statement. I promise. Um, I think it might be a little tough battle, Narv, at St. Mary's. I think
Oh, is
again,
that St. Mary's? I thought we were home.
I think it is.
Regardless, we should be winning. If not, that's gonna be
Yeah, I
sad.
mean, it is a team that's gonna finish last place this year, but I think United are under a lot of pressure right now. Ten Hag, under a lot of pressure, so I think it's gonna be a cagey match. Uh, Southampton likes to play out of the back, break down teams. I don't think United have that applying pressure type
Especially with
squad.
Mason Mount hurt.
Mount's gone, and he was great at that. I just think Rashford's a little lazy. Garnacho can be a little slow at times. His positioning's off. Bruno's great, but I don't like him doing it. I think he's better suited for save his energy for other stuff. But I don't know. I think Southampton's gonna get some chances
Yeah,
against y'all.
Rashford, I don't even know if he's lazy this year. I think he just lost on all full confidence. I don't know. But
I think Southampton's gonna struggle against a lot of teams in the Premier top teams, but I think United, just the way you guys are set up defensively, is a team they can break down. I think if Casemiro plays, that's definitely a huge liability. Um, so, and then Chelsea, we play Bournemouth
I think
this
that might be the
weekend.
game of the weekend,
That's what I'm
honestly.
thinking. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I don't think defensively we figured it out yet necessarily. But I'm expecting us to grab a couple goals this weekend.
Is Lavia back from injury?
He should be. I don't think he's going to play though, but he's back in training.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say it will be interesting to see when he's back what the midfield trio will be.
Yeah, I'm interested in if Sancho gets any minutes this coming weekend. I know he's had a couple practices under his belt, but uh, I'm interested to see how our attacking options, like how we line up. But
I think the high scoring game though this weekend might be the 10 o'clock window, Brighton Ipswich. I think that might be a goal fest.
mm, I could see that. Um, I think across some other leagues too. Uh, in La Liga, I'm most excited for Madrid versus Real Sociedad. I think that would be a fun game.
Oh, that is a nice matchup. Saturday or Sunday?
That's on Saturday.
Wow, a
Yep.
lot of good games Saturday. Okay.
Yeah, I think Kubo, he's had a good start to the year so far.
You're a
You know,
big fan of his, yeah.
yeah. And then I know in your 11, uh, from the last episode, year 11 transfers, you had Sergio Gomez. So he's already had a great start to the season with Real Sociedad. Um,
Yeah, your boy Kubo though, he is another with the diabolical celebration, faking a pulled hamstring and then twerking.
he's just on the trend. Sunday, we have the London Dart Derby with Tottenham, Arsenal.
I think Tottenham could pull this.
Yeah, I
Arsenal's
think,
midfield is a bit
yeah.
shaky.
And Odegaard's, I don't know if he's going to be playing. So
What happened to him?
he picked up an injury, bad injury too. So he
Oh,
flew back to London to get x-rays done, and I have not heard anything since on his update, but I heard it was a pretty bad injury.
that's the
Um,
frustrating part with international breaks, but
oh yeah. Um, so that's the game I think of the day on Sunday. And then that will wrap it up for the weekend. So good luck to your boys in St. Mary's.
same to you guys.
Sounds good. Well, thanks everyone for listening to another episode of Super Subs podcast. It's been Harish and
Narvin Amatia.
peace out.